and welcome to the ASC Podcast. I'm your host, Justin McRoberts. This is a podcast that is committed to and dedicated to helping you navigate the waters you are in, specifically insofar as those waters intersect the arts and religion and leadership. Every week, I take a set of questions from Instagram. I'm looking at my phone right here, which is where the Instagram is, from Instagram. And then I answer some of them in Instagram and then build a podcast episode around them. Because I think that the most valuable thing I can do with my time on this podcast is just get into what you are interested in and what is actually moving or bothering you, your hopes and dreams and obstacles. There are exceptions to that, which we'll get to here at the tail end. But I want to begin with a couple questions that I really enjoyed from this week. Beginning with this one, ways to encourage a child with a passion for fantasy, magic, and imagination wisely. So I think there are a couple layers to the question, without knowing the person super well, but ways to encourage a child with a passion for fantasy, magic, and imagination wisely. I'll go to like 40,000 feet and then I'll come back down. One of the scary things about imagination for us is because it tends to be a little bit wild. And specifically in religious communities in which the truth about things, we traditionally, some of our religious traditions really prefer solid truths and predictability and patterns and imagination. Our imaginations, I mean, you can hear the phrase when I say the word imagination runs wild. Imagination is a part of the human soul that reaches beyond what's possible and reinvents things that it takes reality and bends it in ways that wouldn't have otherwise been bent. And it's a really good part of us. It's also an inevitable part of us. And so a mistake we can make in parenting and in culture, and I'll say this on both levels, is to mistrust imagination. And so there's a little bit of that here. Like, how do you navigate a child's imagination wisely? Well, I don't think you can navigate or help to encourage an imagination wisely by putting a whole lot of restrictions on it or trying to squelch it. I think it's about participation. I think it's about actually getting into fantasy and magic and imagination with your kid and figuring out where that goes. Go on the adventure with your kid. So get into it. What's the fantasy right now? My 8-year-old is fascinated right now. She's one of the kids who's very into the K-pop Demon Hunters thing. And there's that's attached to a lot of anime and Japanese, and Korean, comic work. And my choice, the way I'm choosing to do this is to not, be afraid of things I don't understand or don't know, but actually get involved and sit down next to her and figure out where her interests take her. And I'm learning a bunch. And what I'm mostly learning is what makes her tick. So the way to encourage a child with a passion for fantasy, magic, and imagination wisely is to get into those things with your kid. Like go make up a story or go read one of those stories and be in it with them and then ask lots of questions. This is also where, and this is the kind of sidestep this question into another facet of this. This is part of why artists have traditionally had a difficult time in traditional religious settings, because what we want to do is we want to take things as they are and make them different. We can hear, like, this is the way you've been doing things. We would like to imagine a different way. Like a better stewarding of the imagination and bent towards fantasy and magic that lives in the hearts, souls, minds, and bodies of artists is to participate and not try to harness. So that's my answer here is, ways to encourage anyone with a penchant or a passion for fantasy, magic, and imagination. Trust what's going on in that person. Trust if you have a real strong draw to the capital T truth. Trust that the capital T truth is big enough and wild enough to encompass whatever imaginative path someone might be on, and go with them on that imaginative path. The other way to think about this is this. When we talk about fantasy and imagination, specifically when we talk about someone's imagination and like maybe the threat that comes along with that, what that usually means is like they just see the world in a way that you don't. Go on that adventure, learn a different person's heart, soul, mind. Go learn someone else, and don't be so concerned that you're going to end up somewhere that you shouldn't be. Most of the time, imagination takes us to beautiful places, and we train our imaginations by participating with them as opposed to trying to harness them and put bowling bumpers on them. This other question, which I also loved, is very different. Is how to tell whether to raise my work ethic and push for more in the work I'm at, or to search elsewhere. So how to tell the difference between should I like raise my work ethic, work harder at the thing I'm doing right now, and push more for work where I am at now, or search somewhere else. When in seasons of change, this is true of a lot of us. This may be true for you. In seasons of change, usually two things. When there's actually season of change happening, usually we are pushed and pulled by these two energies. The one is the desire to do something else. Like I'm longing to do something else. The other is kind of a dissatisfaction with what I've got right here. Both of those things are actually rooted in me and my soul. So my answer here is actually to do both. Like work harder where you are, and figure out what actually is available there, while actually looking around and seeing what else might be there. And here's part of why. Is because the thing we learn in seasons of transition or in our desire for a transition is actually is the shape of my own soul in relationship to work. It is the thing that work does, is it excavates and shapes me. So the mistake I can make in a situation like this is to make it about something else, that I would be happier if I had a different job. That might not be true. What you might be running up against in your existing job is that you might be pulling punches, you might be kind of half-assing it somewhere, or there might be an aspect of your job you need to change or work differently. And the only way to actually figure that out is to actually like execute there. If I make it about just moving on, then I do the thing where I take all of my garbage with me into the next thing, and I don't learn the lesson that a season of transition is actually trying to teach me, which is the shape of my soul. So should you, the song's going to jump out right now. I'm so sorry. Should I stay or should I go? I apologize. That'll be in your head for like a week. Should I stay or should I go is almost never a pure matter of circumstance. It's almost always a matter of the condition of my heart and the awareness with which I'm engaging with my own desires. So do both things. If you find yourself dissatisfied in your job and you're unhappy there, is it a season to leave or a season to work harder? Do both. Pay attention to what might be out there and like, how does your soul respond to that possibility, and work harder where you are, and how does your soul respond to what you get back there, and then hire a coach to help you navigate that season so that you can have some perspective outside of yourself to ask you some questions to kind of excavate while you do your work. The last piece I'm going to do on this episode, and I posted a story about this, and then I felt like I could be a little bit more responsible to it. I did have a few questions from folks who were asking me to comment on current events, particularly the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I'm not going to get into it, and I want to talk about why. I used to actually be someone who found a lot of value in getting into conversations about current events, and there's a lot to that for me personally why I don't do that internally. Some of it is just it can be exhausting to lose friends arguing about things that don't matter as much to me. Arguments specifically online end up being bigger than the relationships themselves, and I don't like doing that. So that's a personal thing. That's a choice. On a formative level, and I mean this, I just think I think it's almost always, I have rarely seen good come from confusing and conflating our feelings about really serious topics like gun violence, like our political perspectives, like what do we mean by ethics and how to raise a family. Those are really like for realsies big topics and matter a lot to us, most of us, deeply. I've seen it happen so poorly when we confuse our feelings about like really serious societal, cultural issues with our feelings about celebrities. Celebrity culture is quite literally designed to to rend, to get you to feel things that you don't naturally feel. That like celebrity culture wants to co-opt your emotions. And so couching really serious topics in the celebrity machine just seems like it's just a terrible, terrible trap. So I don't like to get into that. I won't do that. Which then leads to this piece. The number of questions I got from folks, some of them actually said like, why haven't you said anything about this? That there's an urgency there's an urgency of the moment. There's a thing happening right now that's going on, and like, because it's important, you should have something to say. That used to really get under my skin. It used to really bug me that like, I need to have something to say about the thing that's happening in the world. Until I started paying more and more attention to this. Have you ever noticed? And I'm going to challenge you to notice this. Have you ever noticed that the most important thing happening in the world almost always is something that you can't do anything about, that is beyond your reach and well beyond your control? Have you ever noticed that like the narrative from the cultures around us, like it tends to be like, this is the thing that's most important, and it's a thing that is beyond your capacity. It's outside of your neighborhood, which does this little dark magic trick. It minimizes the things that we can do in front of us. What should be important to me right now? What the societal narrative will tell me is that this is the most important thing, and you should have an opinion, and you should have feelings, and you should be talking about this. And if your pastor's not, then blah, blah, blah. And I find it a strange little nefarious trick that the cultures around us play, that the most important thing going on is almost always a thing we can't do anything about. So I don't trust it. Let's end with this then. And I've been ending the podcast with readings from this book, which I'm excited about. It's a physical copy of In the Low. Scott Erickson, Justin McRoberts. This is our third book. It comes out on October 7th. And it is a collection of helpful things for seasons of depression and darkness and anxiety and confusion. And this is a prayer from this book. And here's the image that goes with it. I don't know how well you can see that if you're on the YouTubes or on the Instagrams. Here's the prayer in word. It says, sometimes we are given glimpses into the enormity of the work at hand, not so that we might increase our capacity to do a larger work or more work, but so that the work we are already doing would become more vital and less optional. Rescue me from overwhelm. I cannot do all I want to do. May I be compelled and moved to do the work I can do. Until next time.